Hello and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, I'm going to be doing an altcoin special where I'll be taking a look at the charts for various altcoins. And for today's video, that will include Chainlink, Avalanche, also known as AVAX, SUI, and then we'll also take a look at fetch.ai, or now Artificial Superintelligence Alliance. Haven't taken a look at that one in a hot minute, but if you have any requests, please comment below if there's certain crypto assets you would like for me to take a look at on the charts. And also, keep in mind, if you want to join the live streams, which are pretty much every Friday around noon Central Time, it is a good place where I share my rundown for the indicators and analysis of the week, but we also have discussions. We have conversations about various altcoins and just crypto in general. So it's a great place. Please come and join. It's great having everyone there who is able to make it. So let's take a quick look at the charts, fear and greed. Crypto is still in fear. So as I've been saying, this amount of fear we have not seen in the markets since right before the bottom of this cycle, June of 22. So keep that in mind. We have not seen this much fear. Possibly look at this as a nice dip buying area. We'll take a look at those alts and see, are those at a nice dip? Are they getting some sort of structural support where we feel better about putting our hard-earned money into those? As far as the month of March, it does tend to be one of the weaker months. So just do keep that in mind. If March continues to suck, that's okay. We still have April and May. That kind of rhymed, and we might be seeing a turnaround in a month or so. And as far as taking a look at these altcoins, what's also important to remember, and I talk about this in other videos, is that we want to see a rotation from Bitcoin, Ethereum, the large caps, into our altcoins. That's when we have alt season. And to put it most simply, we do not see the massive rotation that makes crypto famous when everyone's getting rich if they were in the right cryptos, where they are getting a 5, 10, 20, 50x on their money. That only happens when Bitcoin tops or is topping, which means it's now too expensive to buy. Then there's a rotation from all that billions and even trillions of dollars that's in Bitcoin, that there's a good chunk of that rotates out into altcoins. We're at the opposite end of the charts for that, frankly speaking. I will talk about that more in the video or the live stream on Friday, and I do talk about that in other videos. So subscribe if you want to learn more about that. And then this 15% correction right now, it's closer to 30%. Just keep in mind, on our way to the top, it is normal to have a half dozen plus of these corrections. So if we're only getting half a dozen to a dozen of these dips, this would be one that, should you believe in crypto, Bitcoin, alt season, this would be a dip that you probably shouldn't ignore. As far as the macro altcoin year alt season index, we are forming higher highs, higher lows, and we're at one of those higher lows, but still not overpriced, not expensive by any means for altcoins. So we're still in discount territory, and I do talk about Bitcoin cycles, the technical analysis, various charts and indicators every Monday. And I also talk about Bitcoin miners. These are stocks that act like altcoins, who they have balance sheets and financials that we can see. So we have an extra bit of a competitive advantage with these. Not that I'm expecting them to go 50 or 100x like some of these alts might, but I do think these are some of the quote unquote safer. Take that with a grain of salt when mentioned in the same sentence as crypto, but one of the safer crypto projects if you're looking long term. But of course, definitely always do your own research. Taking a look at Bitcoin today, we are on the daily chart, and we can see that it came down to the 200. When it came up, look at these big sell wicks. So the 100-day moving average was being sold off a bit. But then look at these buy wicks. Anytime it's getting underneath this 200-day moving average, it is being bought up. So we have a battle going on right here between the 100 and the 200. Right now, Bitcoin's stalling out a little bit underneath the 20-day moving average, and we do have lower lows and lower highs. So if this battle continues to be lost at this resistance and we get sort of a negative cross of the 50 getting under the 100, then do not be surprised if we see Bitcoin then go a little bit lower, get into that 70K range, which is where currently the 50-week moving average is. And we did get into the high 70Ks not too long ago, but if this 20-week moving average and that 200-day moving average gets lost, this is our next area of support, and that is also a dip I would not miss. So I like this level for discounts right now, and I would love this even more. So that is my perspective. Anyways, let's get over into the altcoins of the day. We have sort of a macro view on the markets, and just keep that in mind. Whatever Bitcoin does fall, then expect further discounts in any of these. So first, we will take a look at Chainlink. And Chainlink recently, it did get down into the $13 range. As we zoom way out, we can see that we do have these higher lows, and Chainlink wicked right down to that. But candle body wise on the weekly, it's still staying at this 0.5 fib, and it's getting bought up off that wick and the 100-week moving average. If we take a look at some other indicators, let's take a look at the MACD first of all, and we can see it's still pretty negative right now, not quite yet bottoming out on that metric. If we take a look at the stochastic RSI, this one, it does look like it's about to cross. So on the weekly, this might be a good dip buying opportunity. But then going over to the daily, what do we see? Kind of a different story. So on the daily, that 0.5 isn't really taken yet, and this could still be resistance instead of support, as we saw on the weekly. This is why it's good to zoom in once in a while. So we can see that the 0.5 on the daily, that $16 mark, we did get underneath that, and of course wick down to that trend line. That's where people got max value recently. But all these wicks, look at where they're being sold off and where we see Chainlink struggling. It's right at that 20-day moving average. So if this candle body can't retake this 0.5 fib, then do expect Chainlink to come back down and to further test this trend line right here. We do have price action horizontally as well. And if it does break underneath that trend line that it's been in love with since the beginning, we have the 382 fib at around $12.27. So right in this area between $16.10 and $12.27, kind of your discount range. You also have this trend line here at around the $13 to $14 range. So if you love Chainlink, it may be worth putting in a buy order at one of those levels, should this be an altcoin that you are a fan of. All right, next let's go to AVAX, also known as Avalanche. So this has been in a descending channel. I drew this channel out just because we were hitting a lot of points, but there's no doubt about it. There are points even lower. And yes, I know this is changing things a little bit on the daily, but we can even argue or make the argument that this is pretty close to the bottom of the channel as well. Let's go to the weekly. Give a similar analysis as we did Chainlink. So still putting in lower lows, lost the 382. So now we're looking at the channel, the 236 fib. And by the way, these fibs you get by drawing from the high to the low. And so it's coming all the way down close to the 236. And even just horizontally speaking, I mean, the only other area ever since this is started going up is down here, which is close to the 236 as well, and that's at around $17. But if we extend this line out, you can see there was price action resistance in the past before AVAX went lower. And so, right here, you could even argue this was a channel as well before it broke out. I wonder how good of a channel this looks like. So I'm just drawing this very quickly. So it never broke under the channel back here, but eventually it did break out of it. And so that's something to watch for if you're bullish on AVAX. And even just, I'm trying to see, are there any sort of similarities as far as the structure of the channel and the price action? Doesn't quite look like it too much. I mean, we did have this area in here where we were getting these lows. It had another relief bounce back here. So if we saw something similar, we'd see a relief bounce soon and then come back down. And, I'll just say, if something like that were to happen, like if we were to see sort of a similar structure back here, then we might challenge the 382 as resistance, come back down here. But as far as the price, we are at the higher end of this wick. You can see there are buyers in the lower end of this channel trying to push it up. So do not be surprised to see a relief bounce here. But overall, lower highs, lower lows. And yeah, this is looking pretty weak to me. But if you are able to catch it, I'd say underneath the $20 area and you love AVAX, I don't think that's a bad area to pick some up personally. Let's just go over to the stochastic, see what that one's looking like. And this one, kind of like Chainlink, it does look like it's trying to cross up, but it's still staying bearish. Eventually, when it does cross up, you can see that we can still move down. But once we start getting into the shaded area, that's where we see more promise. Here, of course, it's stalled out before going lower. But that's why, in my philosophy, when I dollar cost average, I'm not looking at buying the one absolute bottom dip. I'm looking at buying buckets of dips. And this would be part of that buckets of dips that I would be looking at chipping away at just by someone who likes the stochastic. So here's some various areas I would buy just in the oversold area, and overall you'd be doing pretty good. So anyways, that's what we got for AVAX. Let's take a look at SUI, and I think we were going at this one from Tether. So this one I was offering. Now we do see this possibly curling up. I'm going to take away the stochastic, so do know we're seeing somewhat of a structural base there. But something I was offering before is that we see SUI all the way up around the $5 area at the 2618. And remember, this had a big move all the way from 50 cents. So this just did a 10x and then retraced almost 50% of that whole value. So again, 50 cents to $5, give or take. And that was a 10x. And then from $5 to 250, even less. And so did a 10x and then divided by 2. So had a little bit of a decent retracement there. If we do take a look at kind of where it's being bought up right here, I don't think we have to put our fib back on a log scale to look in here yet, but it does look like that 50-week moving average is being bought up pretty nicely and even above it. So there were buyers coming in, and now a little bit more weakness. We want to see if this area, the former all-time high at around 216, offers support. But if it does get underneath that, let's add this other fib, and I recommend you guys adding it too, is the 888. That is a common good fib to add. Let's make this look a touch prettier, and we'll put our fibs on the log scale because we're looking between the prices, not the extended price targets. But if we do see a break underneath that former all-time high, look around that 888 area, and you will see that used to be resistance and support, and that would be right at around $1.85. So if SUI continued to fall and came down to $1.85, and you love SUI, that would be probably a pretty good discounted area to look for. And as far as on its daily chart, not so good. You can see that the 200-day, that has now been lost, and that's looking pretty bearish. So the next two areas of support, just looking horizontally here, we can see this wick took out this low as well as this peak back here, got down a little bit underneath that. I mean, not that it has to happen, but I would be willing to be patient and see price hit first that $2.18 level, and then again below that, $1.82. So it's just me personally speaking. It's probably because we have this negative cross here as well. But that 218 to $1.84, that's what I'm looking at for SUI. All right, let's finish out with fetch.ai in the name. And yeah, if it has AI in the name, you know it must be something good. So anyways, we had this wedge and we broke underneath it. Now, that was a wedge and it broke under, but then another pattern emerged. And just looking at it, do you see it? Do you see what pattern emerged? We had that wedge, and it got broken. But now we have, I know some of you probably got it right. We have a nice channel. Love drawn channels. I think it's one of my favorites. And so here you go. I mean, this is a nice channel right here. Even some structure all the way back when this guy started. So fetch at the lower end of its channel. And right now on the daily, let's zoom in here. Let's look at what's happening here. The daily, it did get under, but it never closed under. Right now, it's closing right above the 786 fib. And so fetch, it did recently struggle and got rejected off this 888, but more specifically, it's getting rejected off the 20-day moving average. So watch what happens with fetch. There's going to be a lot revealed here soon on whether or not it can get a turnaround and get above that 20-day moving average, or if it's going to lose the 786 and get down to the lower area of this channel again. So if you like fetch, I don't hate this price level here at around 62 cents. And that's where the 786 fib is. And I'll tell you, this 786 fib, look where we had resistance before and support. So when fetch had the first leg of its big move up, it got above the 786, created some support, some moving average support here. You can also see price action. There's a lot of horizontal price action right here. I wonder if that's near the 0.65. So if you ever hear people talking about a golden pocket, they're talking about the 618 to the 6.5. That's the golden pocket area. And we will add that in. And let's see, what has fetch done around that golden pocket area before? Has it honored that a little bit? Somewhat. And you want to see, how does the TA or the price reflect, or how does it honor the fibs and the moving averages? Does it ignore them? Does it bounce off of them? And this is one where I'd say these fibs, overall, when I'm looking for fibs that it's honoring, I like the 76. So if you like fetch, lower end of the channel, we also have the fib that has offered resistance and support before. I think fetch, as well as AVAX and Chainlink, they're worth taking a stab at. SUI, in my opinion, I'm expecting a little lower. But as far as fetch here, I would expect maybe a candle body closing on the weekly above the 786. Maybe you get some wicks below, but hopefully that could be somewhat of a local bottom for fetch.ai, also known as Artificial Super Intelligence Alliance. Let's add in just a couple other indicators. Stochastic, yeah, I mean, that's pretty bottomed out. Let's take a look at the regular RSI and see. And this one, I mean, this one's lower than it's been in a while. So this is just bearish. Sometimes, when I see an RSI like that, I wait for it to sort of do a double bottom and show me some bullish divergence, but you don't always get that. Sometimes you just get this bottom and then it shoots out. So do not be surprised. I think, if we saw a local bottom pretty close to where we are right now, a little bit of a relief rally, as I was talking about, I think with AVAX, and then it comes back down further, I would not be surprised to see a move like that, and then that be the bottom. And that just kind of reminds me of something that happened with Bitcoin last summer, where we had this bottom here. We had a relief rally, and that was the true bottom. And then we had a higher low. So do not be surprised if we saw something like this in the near future, or maybe we just V recover out of here. So anyways, those are never a given. I am happy to buy this dip, but keep a little cash on the side waiting for a possible lower phase of that dip. So I don't want to miss this level. And if just taking a look at Bitcoin, if you were waiting for a further dip, really, I mean, that's not too much of a difference. So try to keep that in perspective and also have a strategy. Make sure your strategy is written out and that you are sticking to your strategy, not letting emotion get in the way. So this dip, this is part of my strategy. And I am okay with it going lower because my strategy has that written in on what do I do if further dips happen. It is built into my strategy to attack these dips as far as a dollar cost averager. Not financial advice for you, but just things for you to consider. I like these levels, and I will love further discounts if we get them. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a fantastic afternoon. Take care.